Hi, everyone, and welcome to today's Sip and Solve. I'm Dan Meter, Vice President of Consulting for Experian Business Information Services. My role in Experian is to assist our clients in understanding how the breadth and depth of Experian's business information, products, and data can assist in solving the challenges that you face every day. Today, I want to walk you through 3 tips to increase response rate, and I'm going to do it in just 15 minutes. So, I have my bottle of water with me right now. It's early afternoon here in the Northeast, so I'm pretty coffeeed out at this point in the day, and I hope you all have something good in front of you, too. Response rate, as we all know, is a key measure of marketing effectiveness. Prospects have really upped the ante on us lately, though, and they're now insisting on more personalized and relevant experiences across multiple channels in order for us to get their attention. And you see on the screen 3 key takeaways I'd like you to get from today's session. There are new opportunities around the data you have available to you. Analytical techniques are improving all the time. And there are new ways to integrate all this information into improved response and, of course, return on your marketing investment. So at the end of the session, I'm hoping you'll walk away with some fresh insight into a few of these new opportunities that'll help improve on your success. Now, while the opportunity in small business is eye-catching, capitalizing on that opportunity it's not without its challenges. We see words like fragmented, competitive, and personalization that seem to characterize the travails you'll face in trying to grab the attention of an audience that already has extremely limited time to absorb your message. I recently saw a Gartner survey that broke down the small business buying process into 3 segments, and each of which the small business owner will probably devote only about 20 minutes of time to, which is not a lot of time for you to get your message across. So it's therefore crucial for you to stand out to the right audience at the right time and to reach them through the channels where you most likely will find them with a message that resonates. The primary challenge, of course, is to cut through the noise to be able to reach small business owners at the right time. And any campaign that will give you heightened visibility tends to be the most successful. So I'm going to take a case in point here, a loyalty program, as an example of a campaign where many of the key components of a successful campaign will be found. So, for example, you and the prospect already are known quantities to one another, so you tend to get noticed right away. If the prospect has a good experience with your brand, your chance to have them listen to your message will go up substantially. At Experian, we did a study recently where we noticed that emails targeted to customer loyalty programs had a 40% higher open rate. Now, this is likely a function of the familiarity the prospect has with the brand and the sense on their part that something worthwhile is being offered. But it can also come from your knowledge about the prospect, from what you've learned of them as an existing customer of yours, that allows you to be even more targeted in your prospect selection. This insight can also enhance your ability to tailor your messaging for that particular segment of your customer base. Now, at a high level, the keys to implementing a successful small business outreach strategy are pretty straightforward. You identify and profile your best customers. You find prospects that exhibit similar characteristics. You develop a messaging strategy that resonates with the target market. You determine the channels that will most effectively carry your message to the prospects you've targeted. Now, ideally, creating an accurate data-driven target audience means understanding the basic demographics and firmographics of your small business customer, not only from a business perspective, but also a personal perspective. It's helpful to understand purchase behaviors. It's helpful to understand current interests, and even lifestyle behaviors of the small business owner could be helpful. Now, by truly knowing your small business customer, both as a business and as a consumer, you can build out a comprehensive multi-channel strategy that includes traditional business demographics, past behavioral data, but also current behavioral trends that will lead to insights as to which prospects are currently in the market for a product or service. And we'll talk about that a little bit more later on. You should also understand the risk associated with a small business, which might be an obvious, but it's a no less effective screening tool to ensure you're dealing with a prospect who's likely to be approved. As you can tell, or you've even maybe experienced, you can easily eat into your ROI by targeting offers to prospects who won't pass your credit approval criteria. So the ability to accurately know your customers and understand risk and behaviors has really emerged as the pinnacle for any marketing campaign. So the real power to optimizing response is in having a deep level of insight into customer and prospect behaviors, their characteristics, risk factors, and spending patterns. And some of the tools that are available to you, things like lookalike modeling methods, will help you identify and create targeted audiences that can be served in many different marketing channels. And they can be used to increase awareness, engagement, and conversion, and help you grow your customer base. Segmentation techniques will generate customized personas of your customers and improve messaging. You'll also uncover more insight about your best customers and achieve a holistic profile of each of your customized segments to drive smarter marketing strategies. In turn, this will enhance marketing effectiveness as you identify targets for new acquisition and cross-sell campaigns and increase wallet share and customer loyalty. The bottom line here is that targeting the right businesses along with the right contacts with the right offer is important to ensuring marketing budgets are allocated well to provide a good return on investment. And what we show here are really the keys to driving that. Now let's move on to some of the sort of blocking and tackling specifics about what I just talked about. And the first step is profiling. It all starts with creating a profile of your customer base in order to fully understand who you sell to today. And what I'd like to do is step you through a process that we use at Experian for profiling a portfolio of customers. The key to the process is the data, of course. It's the foundation to any successful analytical endeavor. We typically look at data we have on the business and potentially on the business owner and historical data the lender has on their customers. This could be expanded to include other data sets where appropriate, but for this example, let's just consider data on the business from both Experian and the lender. The most critical first step, and you see in the upper left-hand corner, data preparation, is really the most critical first step. If you don't do a good job here, it'll affect any observations that may ultimately come out of the analysis. A lot of attention is paid to detail at this step of the process. There's usually a lot of back and forth between our decision sciences team and the lender at this point to make sure we completely understand the data and the criteria for population selection. We need to be in total lockstep coming out of this phase. From there, it becomes somewhat more straightforward as we append data, conduct the analytics, and then produce our observations of what segments might make the most sense for you to pursue. There needs to be interaction, though, between the analytics team and the business people. And if the right due diligence is done up front, this should result in a pretty smooth process to get you something that can be used to segment your prospects. Now, in terms of identifying lookalike prospects, we have here an example of criteria that you might see pop during the course of conducting the analysis of your current customer base. And that can be overlaid then on the prospect population to determine which prospects look like your best customers. Now, what you see here on the screen, just identifying attributes that are consistent within the population of best customers for you, is a fairly basic way to assess lookalikes, since it only identifies the individual attributes. It's effective, and it can certainly create efficiencies in how you decide who to select. And it may well work best within your budget to define your lookalikes this way. But there are more sophisticated methods for refining who you go after that will help generate an improved response. I'd like to spend some time right now going over a few of them. So the first is custom response models. The model will appropriately weight the significant factors to produce a score that's tailored to a specific campaign. As you see in the example, the input attributes cover both historical campaign data and bureau attributes. From there, the model is developed using the most predictive attributes, and the resulting score can be used to identify the most attractive targets. One thing to point out, with regard to generic response models. It can be tempting to work with a generic response model rather than a customized model. This would be an off-the-shelf response score that's typically built based on a heterogeneous pool of accounts that likely don't reflect your specific portfolio. Thus, those that might be viewed as most likely to respond may not fit within your criteria for who you want to go after. A custom model, on the other hand, because it's based on your specific current clients, will tend to produce better results. Now, this next slide, we're going to talk about implementation. And from an implementation perspective, it's a good idea to cross-matrix the likelihood of response with the likelihood of approval. A lot of money is spent more wisely when you have a sense of not only who's most likely to respond, but also who's most likely to be approved. We typically consult with our clients to find the right balance of response and approval so we can optimize targeting of prospects for a given campaign. In this chart, you can see the percentage of the prospect population that falls into each segment. The individual segments are partitioned by likelihood of response, which are represented in the columns, so across the numbers across the top, and the likelihood to be approved based on risk score are represented in the rows, which of course is on the left side. With this, you have a good indication of the share of the prospect population that falls into each of those segments. You can then determine thresholds to produce the optimal volume and quality of prospect from a combined risk-response perspective. So in this example, our client decided to reach out to those that are in the blue cells on the chart. It represents about 20% of the prospect population. And if you look to the far right column, you can see our client chose to market to nearly all prospects that showed the highest likelihood of approval, with only the very least likely to respond being kept out of the pool. Conversely, it was only with the most likely to respond that the client was willing to lower the risk thresholds. And even at that, they were careful to still weed out those that had a credit score that indicated a moderate risk and below. Now, the one exception with that was the 4.9% of the population that was deemed highly likely to respond, so along that bottom row, but had a moderate level of risk associated with them. It's possible that given the likelihood of response, the client felt it was worth any heightened approval risk to play kind of a volume game on those, betting that the ROI on that segment would work out and raise the overall performance of the campaign. So next, I'd like to talk about something I mentioned at the beginning of the session, that there are non-traditional types of data that can help with increasing response. On this slide, you see a lot of additional information that's been found helpful in framing a successful campaign. And, it starts with the fact that small businesses throw off a lot of signals. These signals can provide insight into the stage that they're in at a given point in time, and you can use those to further refine your segmentation strategies. So whether it be registrations or online activity or license activity or even news alerts, these signals can be used by you to understand a lot about where a small business is in their evolution. This can be very helpful in determining how you want to approach a prospect, or even whether that prospect is a good fit for the campaign you're trying to get off the ground based on their life cycle stage. So effectively determining targets, messaging, channel strategies will help you achieve a certain level of success. But I want to introduce another piece to the puzzle that's been getting a lot of airplay, particularly lately. So as we've said, the small business market is a highly competitive market, and the ability to get the right message to the right prospect through the right channel is crucial. But to be really effective, your targeting strategy should also include an assessment of intent. This is where many marketers will stumble because they haven't identified who's in the market. So they haven't identified who those real motivated buyers are. So here are the good reasons to use intent. I mean, identifying a prospect's buying stage and prioritizing accordingly, can be very, very helpful. Uncovering opportunities you might have overlooked with traditional approaches, and of course, probably goes without saying that you take action when motivation to buy is high. Now, the source data is typically the online behavior of your prospect. With many small business owners, these patterns are often observable in their personal use. We haven't touched on this, but it's likely you have a lot of small business owners in your consumer portfolios. So teasing them out and then matching them to the small business they own is a great way to build a cross-sell prospect list. Readiness to buy your products or service could be contained in the way your prospect interacts online. So algorithms can be applied to that data that look at this pattern of interactions and can produce indicators that help guide your outreach and add a layer to your targeting that can get you to the most motivated buyers. So to close out today's session, let's take a look at a case study. This lender partners with a retail organization who are offering a retail business credit card. Their objective was to increase the number of small business cardholders and drive loyalty with their retail partner. At the same time, the budget was limited, and they wanted to be very purposeful about their approach. And they suspected that many small business owners were using consumer card and bank products instead of small business products. They offer a specialized service and treatment strategy to small business owners who come into their stores, and they know these clients are their most profitable and most loyal. Experience analytics team, we worked closely with the financial services, marketing, and risk teams at this client to analyze and profile this segment of highly profitable and loyal customers. And then using the profile attribution and leveraging consumer to business linkage, we identified 4 million small business owners within their consumer portfolio. Now, if you'll recall, they had a limited budget. So given this, we recommended that they split the 4 million population into groups, with the primary target being about 1 million of their most profitable prospects. For this group, they employed a diverse engagement strategy, including pricing marketing channels like direct mail and in-store direct sales, as well as the more inexpensive digital options. Also, they leveraged loyalty drivers and behavior and intent data that they had for the consumer. The remaining population are the secondary targets, where they'll market through less expensive channels, including email, in-store shopping, take ones, and statement offers. So by implementing a segmented campaign program, they were able to optimize their budget and achieve their ROI expectations. So with that, it brings us to the conclusion of today's session. Thank you for spending your break with me. Hopefully I was able to help you get a better understanding of how you can increase response rates. And as always, if you have any questions or want to learn more about what I talked about today, feel free to use the link you see here to chat with us. Also, if you want to get notified of future sessions, make sure you join the list. And with that, have a great rest of the day, everyone.